For those new here, hello and welcome. My name is Lisa and I'm a certified financial planner and an accredited financial counselor. I post videos teaching you about personal finance and how to live an abundant life. I'm going to share with you some life lessons in this video, and a lot of them impact your finances as well. Now, if my voice sounds funny and I kind of have a lisp, it's because I have a major toothache right now and I can't get in to see a periodontist until next week. So my gums are kind of swollen and numb, and it's a whole thing. Now, I recently turned 39 years old. And if you've ever been in a blank 9 year, you know what I mean when I say that it hits different. There is something about being on the edge of a new decade of life that makes everything feel a little heavier and sometimes a little scarier. But I'm doing my best to choose to see this last year in my 30s as a chance to reflect, to reset, and to elevate. Now, I still have about 11 months before I hit 40, but lately I've been thinking a lot about what matters in life, what I care about, what I've learned so far, and what actually brings me joy on a day-to-day basis. So I thought it would be fun to share these life lessons with all of you. Let's jump right into the list. Number one, there is not one definition of success. Let me say that again for the people in the back. There is not one version of success. Success doesn't mean hitting $1 million, buying a house, or getting a fancy job title. Those things can be a part of success, but they're not the whole story. Success is truly relative. It depends on who you're talking about and what your definition of success is. So, fun fact about me, in both middle school and high school, I was voted in the yearbook as most likely to succeed. At the time, I thought it was cool, but also there was a big part of me that wished I had been voted something like class clown for being funny or most athletic. Now, I was not the most athletic, but I really did wish I was better at the 3 sports that I played. And that's what I valued. I thought it'd be cool to be an MVP of a sports team. Now, people in my schools always assumed that I would be successful because I got good grades. I was the student body vice president in high school. And like I mentioned, I played 3 sports. I played tennis, basketball, and I ran track. The thing is, that kind of success is built on performance and productivity. And that's all that I knew. And for many of us as young people, that's what we grow up believing. That's what everyone tells us. That's what we hear from our parents, our peers, and media. So the way that translates for people who are high achieving and who want success, we often focus very heavily on what careers, what goals, and what lifestyles we want so that we can achieve success. And that's what we perceive as being successful. What I've learned in my 39 years of life is that those paths don't always lead to a fulfilling life. But I have to admit, that was me for many years. I was that annoying straight A student in school. I was that person who was gonna go to college, get a degree, and then go to more school, get another degree. And I'm very grateful and thankful for the path that I did choose because it has led to a really cool lifestyle that I have now. But what I wanna point out is I was living out the version of success that my parents dreamed of. It was this dream that I was handed, and no questions asked, I had to just go ahead and execute the plan. My parents were immigrants from the Philippines, and when they came to the United States, they had to start from scratch. So like many first-generation Americans, for many children of immigrants, we learned to work hard. And that's what I did, right? I felt like I owed it to them, and I just felt like hustling, earning, that's how you're gonna lead to an amazing life. And again, I want to emphasize, it's not that that's not true. Working hard can lead to a really amazing life, but I want to point out the dark side of it. There were many years in my adulthood so far that I spent burnt out, being a workaholic, overproductive, and confused about life and what I'm doing. There were also many years, like I said, that I was chasing other people's goals, including my parents. I wanted to prove my worth. I wanted to prove my value. I wanted to prove that I was successful to someone else. So when I say there is not one version of success, it's because I believe that success has to be defined by the person who is aiming for that success. My version of success, and it doesn't have to be the same as yours, is no longer lots of money, nice car, nice house, nice things. I still want those things, but I don't think that's what makes me successful. Now, my version of success and my definition of success is the fact that I am empowered to define my own version of success. That is very meta for me to say, but it's true. I think you are successful when you base success on your own definition of success. And on top of that, you're successful when you can recognize that you have achieved success. So like I said, my definition of success has many definitions. It's as simple as being a kind person, feeling joy in life, making an impact on other people's lives. And it can also mean making a lot of money, being really good at something you love, growing my YouTube channel in the last year. Success can also be being really talented at a job, a hobby, or a passion, or not being talented, but enjoying your job, your hobbies, or your passions. All I'm saying is my definition of success is that success has to be led by your vision and your definition of it, and not anyone else's. Life lesson number 2. It is critical to value the internal over the external. So this is somewhat related to that first point I was just making about what is your version of success, right? Because that has to come from within. That has to come from up here, in here, your heart, not your boobs, your heart. But if you expand on that concept, what I'm really saying is that you have to live life on your terms, by your rules, and you truly have to get to know yourself so that you can connect better to the world around you. If you think about it, we live in a world that constantly tells us to chase external validation, getting a good job title, a good salary, chasing the next big thing. Now, we're human. I get it. It is very nice when other people think that we are smart, we're funny, we're attractive, when they look at us and we feel like they think we're successful. It feels good to be recognized for our work at our jobs. It feels good to accomplish goals. It's even nice to get little double taps on an Instagram post. Who would have thought that would even be a thing decades ago before Instagram existed? Validation from others can bring nice feelings to us. I'm not going to deny that. But what I've learned is that true peace and real joy and confidence come from within. When you don't take the time to reflect on what matters to you, I think it's easy to chase the next thing outside of you. If I get one more promotion, I'll finally be happy. If I find a partner, I'll finally stop feeling lonely and I'll be happy. If I win the lottery, I'll feel at peace. And while these things do matter and can matter, like I would love to win the lottery, we have to know that they aren't the full picture. Because the only thing you truly have control over is what is inside of you, inside of your skin, your thoughts, your values, your self-worth, what you feel inside. And if you think about it, this directly ties to how we spend our money. Many people try to buy confidence or success or peace of mind. We're taught from a young age to be materialistic, to want nice clothes, more clothes, to want luxury lifestyles, to want nice things. And you know what? To each their own. I'm not one of those frugal, minimalist, personal finance experts that don't value those things. I actually have a good relationship with what luxury means to me and what I value and what I spend my money on. But what's important is that you have to value the internal over the external. The internal has to come first. It's a lifelong balance that you're gonna have to find. But if you value what's outside of you, what's external to you, over what's internal, the external will never be enough. You're gonna always keep chasing. I literally did this when I started making enough money to break out of the struggle, to break out of living paycheck to paycheck and not knowing if I'm gonna make rent next month. There was something still missing. So I kept on searching for things to buy, things to spend on, things to do, things to make me feel better. And they did here and there. But long term, I was doing myself a disservice. I truly believe nowadays that when you start from within, when you have clarity on what brings you joy and on what you value, if you know what kind of life you actually want, your money starts to align with that. That's why I am always talking about how to spend with intention. I want you all to feel secure with your money and to feel confident about your purchases and what you spend your money on, rather than feeling guilt and shame, and rather than spending on things you don't even care about just because you're trying to appease someone else or something else. So here's the key takeaway on this point, and I can't believe we're only on lesson number 2, but that is to build your self-awareness. As you continue to move through the world, through your career, through building your wealth, through relationships with people, don't forget to check in with yourself. You can practice mindfulness to help you start noticing what fuels you and what brings you joy, and to also notice what drains you. I think the more grounded you can be internally, the more intentional and aligned you will become in life in general, and money and spending decisions is also one part of that. Number 3, another life lesson I want to share with you guys is that outlets do not equal therapy. What I mean is distractions, hobbies, the things that you turn to when you're sad or you're mad or you're anxious, those can be great tools, but they are not a substitute for healing. I truly believe in my 39th year of life that most people could actually benefit from therapy. I think it can build your self-awareness, it can give you tools to regulate your emotions, and it can help you process past experiences or past traumas that might still be affecting you and your life in a negative way. So I grew up in a household where therapy wasn't a thing. I mentioned earlier, my parents were immigrants from the Philippines, and between my culture as well as my specific family, it just wasn't a thing. You got through it. You did what you had to do to perform, to go to work, to earn money, to put food on the table. So talking about your feelings wasn't really normalized like that. Growing up into adulthood, I thought that was normal. I thought that was fine. I thought I knew how to manage my emotions. But I had to learn the hard way that I wasn't nearly as emotionally regulated as I believed I was. So here's a quick story. Me, 5'2" Lissa, I have played basketball since the 5th grade. Now, I was never D1 scholarship material for college, but I did play through middle school, high school, travel teams, college intramurals, pickup basketball, and even now to this day, I still play in recreational leagues around town. I love basketball. I'm a decent player. It's a great workout, and it's always been my thing. It's my outlet. It feels good. That is how I had fun, but it's also what I used to cope when I was not feeling great. So back way when, 15 years ago, I can't believe this is 15 years ago. When I was 24 years old, 2 major things happened within the span of a few weeks. My dad passed away, and I tore my ACL for the 2nd time, 2 years after the first tear. The first surgery didn't hold up. I guess I didn't rehab it properly, or it wasn't done well in surgery, and I re-tore it. A few weeks after my dad's funeral, I had surgery and I could barely walk. I couldn't run, definitely couldn't play basketball or do any sports. At age 24, my 2 outlets in life were calling my dad when I was having a bad day or playing basketball when I was having a bad day. It was during this time in my life that I didn't have either of those, right? I could call my mom, but it wasn't the same. I could call my sister, other friends, but it wasn't the same. I depended on my dad when I was feeling like I had a shitty day, or I would go and play basketball. So the thing about me is I'm a high functioning person. I could have situational depression. I could be going through things, but I could still function. I could still go to work, finish the job, make money, keep my life going. But ultimately, it wasn't until years later that I realized I was disconnected. Here and there, I would have emotional outbursts. I would cry a lot. I had a lot of strained relationships and friendships. And years later, I hit a breaking point, and that's when I finally decided to go to therapy. That's when I realized I didn't actually have the tools to process something as big as losing my dad. I didn't even know that there was a process to grieve. So over a couple years, I realized that therapy wasn't just there to kind of help me get through that moment and losing my dad and this wall that I had hit in life. It was helping me build my toolkit. How can I manage my emotions and my life in these different situations with more compassion, more care for myself, and more intentionally? So the lesson here is, yes, having good outlets and distractions can be helpful. They can be tools in your toolkit, but they do not equate to therapy. because sometimes what we need is not a distraction, it is healing. And healing is hard work. Distractions can be fun, and distractions can change your mood on a given day. But long term, there's often some healing that can be done. So here's something I wish I'd known earlier as it relates to money. I used to think therapy was a luxury. It was something for people who had extra time, who had extra money. It was not something I would have chosen for myself because I didn't grow up around it and I didn't really understand what it was now that I look back at it. But today, I believe it's been one of the best financial decisions I've ever made. It was an investment in myself, and now I understand what it can do for my life. It's made me a much more aware person, and of course that translates into all areas of my life, including how I handle money. Whew. We are only 3 down, but we got a lot more to cover because I got so many things I want to share with you. Number 4, perfectionism is the enemy of growth. Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I almost didn't post this video because I felt like the life lessons that I was sharing were all over the place. They weren't connected to each other, and this video was going to be too long. But luckily, I told myself, just do it. Literally just post the damn thing, because maybe something good will come out of doing rather than waiting and delaying. What is perfectionism? Well, perfectionism is the belief that everything has to be done flawlessly or perfect, or that it's not worth doing at all. It's that pressure you get to want to do things perfectly or just right every single time you do it. We like to think that perfectionism goes hand in hand with high achievement and success. And while that could be the case sometimes, it's just false. Underneath perfectionism is usually fear. There's a fear of failure, of not doing things up to par, to your standards or to other people's standards. There's a fear of judgment. There's a fear that you're gonna feel not good enough. So perfectionism can seem like you have high standards, but many times it leads to procrastination, self-doubt, or for me, I've experienced the fact that it has to do with people pleasing more so than it is trying to please myself and my own standards. So at the time of recording this, I have almost 20,000 subscribers, and I appreciate every single one of you for all of the support on my channel. I'm gonna keep giving back as much as I can, but this is part of the story. This is not my first time trying to grow a YouTube channel. I started working at YouTube back in 2011, and I actually tried to start my own channel in 2012 and again in 2016. But both times, perfectionism got the best of me. I would start a channel, start creating content, start trying to figure out how a camera works and how lighting works, and then I would stop. I would hate how the videos turned out. I would tell myself that the videos weren't good enough, that I didn't like how I looked in the videos, and then I'd eventually fall off and stop posting. So yes, over the years, I've learned a lot more about content and about YouTube, especially after working at YouTube for over a decade. The number one reason I believe this channel is growing is consistency. I didn't let perfectionism get the best of me, and for once in my life, I've posted a video on YouTube every week since the end of 2023. Like most YouTubers, a lot of my earlier videos are so cringe. Even some of my recent ones I feel are cringe sometimes. Cameras not in focus, bad audio, awkward delivery. Sometimes I get really hot under these lights and I start sweating in the video and I don't want to post it. But what I have made myself do is to post the videos anyway. I've continued to learn, I keep making adjustments, and I'm still going. I don't want to let perfectionism stop me from my bigger mission, which is teaching personal finance on the internet and helping all of you build wealth and build confidence with your finances. Now, quick side note, if you are someone who wants to start a YouTube channel or anything, you have to post. What I've learned being a content creator and influencer is you have to keep posting, not just so that the algorithm starts picking you up, but also because this gives you data. You get both quantitative data through analytics and qualitative data, feedback from people on what's going well, what's not going well, what you're doing right, what you can improve on. But if you don't post, you're never going to be able to make progress. So as much as I love putting out great material that I've put a lot of hours into so that there's no typos on the screen and so that you don't see a random eyelash on my face, the fact of the matter is you have to stick to the bigger goals and let go of perfectionism, because then you will unblock those obstacles and clear up the path to greater things. And yes, I have a way to relate this to money as well, because look, a lot of clients that I've worked with avoid things like budgeting or investing because they feel like they don't have the time to do it perfectly. Or when it comes to investing, they want to understand every single thing first about the financial markets because it's scary. But perfection will hinder your progress, and progress is the ultimate goal. All right, number 5, balance is what makes life smoother. Have you guys ever heard of the Wheel of Life exercise? It's a coaching tool, but it is a very eye-opening tool that helped me realize just how important it is to have balance in your life. I alluded earlier to that wall I hit years after my dad passed away when I finally decided I needed support, I needed help, so I went to therapy. But also around that same time, I decided I just need help, I need support, I don't know what I'm doing in life. So I actually also hired a life coach. The life coach is who had me do this Wheel of Life exercise. Basically, she had me print out this piece of paper. It has a wheel on it with 8 spokes, and each spoke represented one aspect of life: career, relationships, social life, finances, etc. And what she had me do was fill in each spoke of the wheel according to how fulfilled I felt in each area of life. What I found at that time was that my finances were great because I was making a lot in my career, but I felt like my social life was lacking, my love life was lacking, and I wasn't really as happy in my career as I thought I was. So what happens when you fill out this wheel is if one spoke is filled in all the way and the rest are nearly empty, imagine a wheel turning that's janky like that, right? It's not smooth all the way around. It means that it's not going to make for a smooth ride. So the goal is not necessarily to have every category maxed out, but it's about noticing how balanced the various aspects of life are for you. And the magic with this is that this is going to change throughout life. Sometimes your career is the main focus and other things have to take a back seat, but you don't want those things taking a back seat to be completely neglected, because what happens if you get laid off? You're going to have nothing. You want to have balance as much as you can, because when things aren't going great in one area of your life, you have the other aspects to make life feel a lot more manageable than not having anything at all. I also tie this to the fact that your whole identity and your happiness ultimately don't have to be tied to just one thing. It's okay to care about your career as well as spending as much time with your kids as possible. And then sometimes maybe your social life takes a backseat. Or maybe you can find the time for all areas and keep it as balanced as possible. You don't have to be perfect. Remember the last point we just talked about? I believe that balance is what makes for a smoother life. All right, we have a couple more to go. Life lesson number 6. When it rains, it pours. So you got to prepare while it's still sunny outside. This sounds kind of negative, but what I want to point out is that sometimes life has a wild, crazy way of stacking challenges. It's not that you deal with one issue at a time, like losing your job and then your car breaking down. Sometimes in life, you're going to have a lot of these things all happening at the same time, and it's going to suck. The reason I feel like this is a life lesson I had to learn is because in the past, when I was younger and multiple things happened at once, my dad passing away and me tearing my ACL in the same month, I used to feel like it was the end of the world, that everything just sucks so bad, that there isn't one great thing in my life. And it was really hard for me to see outside of that this was a phase in life, that I was going to get through it, that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. It would be like standing in a full-blown storm without an umbrella, no rain shoes, and no jacket. When I started to learn and to accept that ups and downs in life are part of life, that's when I felt like there was something freeing about it. Like if you can just accept that life has beautiful moments and wonderful moments, but also difficult, painful moments, it doesn't stop the pain and the difficult moments from happening, but it kind of primes you to have a more stable, stronger mindset when those things do occur. Now, the good news is that there are things you can do in life to prepare for those storms that will come inevitably. You can prepare financially. This is actually one of the easier things you can prepare for. Emergency funds, insurance, risk management, so that when bad things happen in life that have an expense tied to it, you don't have to worry so much about the financial part. But you can also prepare emotionally. I've talked a lot in this video about building a self-awareness and building my emotional resilience. Those are things that you can't learn and fix overnight, but if those are things you work on a regular basis, they will absolutely help you if and when challenges arise, and you'll be happy that you prepared for them. If you like my rain and storm analogy, it's kind of like buying those rain boots, having that umbrella, getting those things ahead of time, throwing them in the closet so that if and when you need them, they are there. Number 7, your health is your wealth. It was a thing that my dad would say all the time, and I truly believe it. In our time on this earth, there is nothing more important than our health. Here's why. If you're not in good health and you can't help yourself, you can't help others. If you're not in good health, it's going to be hard to focus on doing great things in the world. If you're not in good health, you're going to have a hard time enjoying your money. How can you travel or do things if you don't feel good? It's going to be hard to enjoy that money. And of course, if you're not in good health, just not feeling good physically, mentally, or emotionally is not a great quality of life. Your health allows you to show up for yourself, for your job, for your loved ones. It's what allows you to enjoy the wealth that you are working so hard to build. We spend so much time chasing money, chasing success, trying to be recognized. And while those things are important, I promise they do not feel great if your health is suffering. So this is a simple one. Take care of yourself. Schedule your doctor's appointments. Don't avoid them because they're expensive. We all know healthcare is not great here in America, but you gotta find that balance that works for you to make sure you're keeping up with your health. You wanna move your body in ways that feel good to you and rest when you need to. Like I mentioned earlier, go to therapy. Take care of your mind. You can also do that on your own without outside support, but you don't wanna wait until there's a crisis to prioritize your health, all aspects of health. Physically, mentally, emotionally. If there's anything in life that you should be proactive about, more so than your finances, and that's coming from a financial professional, be proactive about your health. You don't want to be reactive. You want to take control of your health. All right, number 8. I think this is the last one, even though I have a couple more I want to share. Maybe I'll do a follow-up video, but I know this video is long already, so let's wrap up the list. The last life lesson I want to share with you is that the journey matters just as much as the destination. You already know how much I love basketball. I mentioned it earlier, so it might not surprise you that I was a huge Kobe Bryant fan. I actually have a Kobe Bryant Mamba tattoo. It's crazy. I got it on a whim. Anyways, I grew up in Northern California, so I am a Golden State Warriors fan, but considering I'm a big Kobe fan and I've lived in Los Angeles for most of my life, I gotta shout out Kobe. So here's something that Kobe said and truly believed in. He said, those times when you get up early and work hard, those times when you stay up late and work hard, those times when you don't feel like working, you're too tired, you don't wanna push yourself, but you do it anyway, that is actually the dream. It's not the destination, it's the journey. Now, I don't believe in being a workaholic and burning yourself out, but there's a balance to it all. I still believe in what his point was, in that it is the journey that matters. Yes, the end goal, the achievement, the success is nice and wonderful and is something to celebrate, but you can't forget what you do to get to that end goal. I'm 39 right now, and I can honestly say I'm still very much on the journey. I do have many successful, big achievement moments and things that I consider to be great accomplishments that I'm very happy with. But oftentimes, in between those, there is a lot of, silent time when there's no major moment. Those are the times that I am trying to remind myself that this is part of the journey. So just a few weeks ago, when I met with my YouTube mastermind group, we meet every 2 weeks, I told them I felt like I was in a slump. I had posted a few videos in a row on YouTube that I thought were gonna do great because I was trying some new stuff, and they didn't perform as well as other videos. So I started to feel discouraged. But after hearing their feedback and kind of sitting with it, I realized that for YouTube specifically, this is the journey. I'm not gonna know what's working and what videos I like doing or not doing unless I experiment. I'm not gonna grow unless I try new things. And even if I have a flop, that doesn't mean it's a failed video. If one person watched a video and got some meaningful information out of it, I think that's a success. So I'm trying to trust the process and remind myself that this is part of the journey. It's not getting 100,000 subscribers. That'll be nice when it happens, but in the meantime, I'm sticking to my mission, which is helping you guys with your finances and beyond. So like I said, this is already a long video, and I've shared a lot actually about my life, more than I intended to, but I hope it was helpful. In 39 years of life, I've gotten a lot out of it, but I'm not done learning. I'm open to continue not only learning, but unlearning things that are no longer serving me. If any of this resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. This might be one of my longest videos ever, but if you made it all the way to the end, I truly, truly appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, peace out.